Welcome to the No Limit Selling Podcast, where industry leaders share their advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. And today we have Sheila Granger. She's a hypnotist, so don't look her in the eyes, whatever you do. Sheila, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Uma. Great to be here.
So one of the things that, I find intriguing is, my whole focus is understanding the mindset, and you can understand it from the point of view of the average citizen. You could understand it from the point of a psychiatrist, from a neurologist, and to get a different perspective. I'm so excited to be talking about this with you because you're a hypnotist and you look at it from a different lens altogether. Welcome to the program. And why don't you do a brief introduction of what's a nice girl like you doing in an occupation like this?
Yeah, indeed. Probably like a lot of hypnotists and people in life really in general is, when we're at school, we have an idea sometimes of what we want to be. And sometimes we don't have any idea at all, do we?
Yes.
And my idea when I was a little girl is I wanted to be a journalist. But anyway, that never happened. I never kind of followed that path. But I, my background, I actually worked for, believe it or not, for the government for 20 years as a fraud investigator. But it was a huge people watching exercise, really. Why is it that we end up doing what we do, or why do we make the choices we make? And so I had this interest in, well, how is it that people think? What really makes us tick?
Yeah, human behavior. Intriguing.
Exactly. I like nothing better than to sit outside a coffee shop, watching people.
In a good way, not a creepy way.
Not in a creepy way, just let me get that clear. Not like I've just become your latest stalker way. But yeah, human behavior is fascinating. And I went back 15 years now. I saw a hypnosis training course, thought that might be interesting. And so went along. And really what you learn with hypnosis, there's a lot of NLP principles behind it, what makes people tick. But why didn't they teach me that at school? That's what I want to know. Why didn't I learn that stuff at school? Because how different would our lives have been if we understood at a younger age, well, how can I use my mind and the way I think to the best advantage for myself?
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. You've got a kid who really hates mathematics. I'm no good at it. I'm terrible at it, but I have to do it to get into university. What if they could do self-hypnosis or go to Sheila and all of a sudden they realize that you can learn mathematics easily, and just having that new belief implanted opens up a new world of opportunities. And I agree. These kinds of techniques should be taught in elementary school. If that was happening, bullying, which is like a pretty important issue, all of that would go away, because part of bullying is, Sheila, if I say horrible things to you and you don't react, then I go somewhere else. And if you had the ability to decide how you act or feel, you could just say elsewhere, bully, and the bully's like goes. And the need to bully comes from something missing within. And if they could actually get that, then they wouldn't bully in the first place. So yeah, it would change the world.
I mean, I did a lot of work a number of years ago now in schools and colleges in my local area, and it was predominantly around exam stress. And what was really interesting was because it with teenagers, it's the first time you got that kind of spotlight effect on you, haven't you? And the number of clients I work with for all sorts of different issues, who actually the first time they felt real pressure or anxiety was when they go back in their mind to actually a school exam. And that has stayed with them all that time throughout life. It's maybe triggered that anxiety in a longer term. And so I went and did some work with schools and colleges and really kind of taught the students how to perform at their best when it mattered most, what are the resources in our own mind that we can tap into to enable things in the right direction for us to be our best. And the local newspaper did a feature on this. Hypnotist goes into schools, and it actually led to a radio interview. And the
Nice.
radio presenter, to begin with, was saying, "Is it right? Is it right that schools are paying hypnotists to go in and hypnotise the kids?" But actually, by the end of that interview, the presenter completely came round to the way of thinking with, actually, this is a really good thing to do. Because
Yeah.
people have this perception, don't they, of hypnosis? It's like sleep, or they see the
So,
stage hypnotist and they think, oh no, that's not quite
and so
right.
not so
This
much
is
that. I don't think it's not so much that. It's like, you're going to make me bark like a dog is something I hear, or cluck like a chicken. And that's the thing, is that you will have this power over me and I'll lose myself. And we'll talk about hypnotism in a minute, but I wanted to go back to something earlier you said. You've got a kid that's got this anxiety around testing. And let's say it's something like totally useless, like French or whatever, in their mind. That's not so much the issue. Is once you get that uh, I'm not good enough thing, then your mind starts looking for validation for that. Not to say that doesn't make sense. It starts looking for other ways to validate that I'm not good enough. And
yeah,
so then it starts becoming bigger and scarier. And it gets so big and scary that we don't go anywhere near it. We just say, okay, I'm going to live a small life and I'm not going to do anything new that creates this. And one of the things that hypnosis does is very much goes in and allows you to change the meaning of that event. The event still happened, but the meaning you make becomes different. And then your mind starts looking for validation for that meaning. And the meaning could be, I am incredibly attractive to women, which may not be true, but if I hold on to it, there's hope for me. Uh,
I mean, one of the kind of simple techniques that even sports professionals will use. If you think of a sports team who have just gone and they played a match and it was dreadful. They lost, they missed penalties, all of those things, all terrible things happen. And you're going to go away with a really bad feeling about that, and that's going to, certainly in the sports world, dent confidence massively. So when you go out again, you've kind of got these uneasy feelings, and then we don't perform very well again, and it kind of, you hear of teams being on a losing streak.
oh yeah.
Certainly in football terms in the UK, we hear teams on a losing streak. But when you look at what's really happened, is their skill set hasn't changed, but how they feel about it is completely altered. So,
Yeah.
one of the things, they may do is, in their own mind, rewind that technique, that same incident, but see it in a different way, a bit like pathological lying. Okay, I'm going to pretend in my own mind that it actually went exactly how I wanted it to go, and that was brilliant. And again, it immediately flips the feelings, and it sets us up in a different way going forward. We
Absolutely. And
tend to,
another way to, oh, please finish the thought.
we tend to very much in life focus on what we don't want rather than what we do. So, if we want to lose weight, we tend to focus on, oh, look at the figure on the scales, I'm getting fatter, which creates bad feelings in us. And then if we've linked food to emotions and we want to eat some more, to bury that emotion down, to kind of soothe our soul, if you like.
And so looking at that sports example, like, so one way is just rewrite history, is to see it in a different way. And the other way is to change the meaning around it. It's like, oh yeah, I could have passed to my teammate, but I went this way. The lesson, this was such a gift. Doing that, now I can see it. The lesson is be aware of where my teammates are. And so it could be that you rewire it totally, or it could be that you just learn lessons from it. And it allows you to be more aware of that next time. And what's the blessing is you get into a winning streak, which is the exact same process, but just in a more positive way.
There was, when I first started off as a hypnotist, I used to do a lot of things just in my community, just to help people. I mean, hypnotists, a lot of the time, we're going out just to help people. You want to make a difference in somebody's life. And I had a lady, she come to me for weight loss, but she was married to a football coach. And he was a coach of a little teenagers football team. And she was just telling me one day after the session that they wanted to move up the league with this team. But at the weekend, they were going to be playing a team of big lads who had, the previous time they played them, had annihilated them 11-1 was the score. They completely beat that. So she said they're going into this game thinking, what's the point? We're going to lose. What's the point? We know what happened last time we went to play them. So what's the point? So I said, look, why don't I come and do a couple of sessions with them, just see if I can help a bit, give them some pointers. And so I really taught them about focusing on winning images. We did some pre-competition routines, kind of mental rehearsal around this. We did a little bit of focus, where our focus lies. Think of a teenager, the ball's not near them. What am I going to think about? I wonder what I'm having for my tea tonight. What's he looking at over there? And in that split second, we've given, somebody a competitive advantage, haven't we? Was it David Beckham lost the World Cup for England, I think, because of a loss of focus in a period of time. So anyway, so I did a little bit, not very much, just a little bit of mind training, if you like. With which I view hypnosis as a lot of the time is we're training somebody's mind in a different, more beneficial direction. And they went to play this game, and I actually went to watch them. I'm not a big football person, even though I'm from England. I'm not a big football person, but I went to watch them play. The score was 5-4, so they still lost, but the score was 5-4. A big difference from 11-1.
Huge, absolutely.
And interestingly enough, my local paper came and did a little piece on these kids.
Nice.
So they were happy because they were in the paper. They were happy. They were in the news. That kind of led to the biggest selling newspaper in the UK picking the story up and interviewing me about the European Football Championships.
Hilarious.
Which was quite hilarious, as I know absolutely nothing about football. But I do know about mindset and how we focus our attention on things. So, it can really create shifts in our world if we learn how to, focus.
So why don't you give your definition of what hypnosis is? I'll toss in mine, and then let's focus on that most basic thing, our bodies, and gaining weight and losing weight, and how hypnosis could help. So let's start off by framing what hypnosis is.
I mean, I just simply view hypnosis in a really simplistic term, really, in that we are focusing attention on something. Now, with some people define it as also as a state of relaxation. I think the relaxation almost comes as a secondary to the hypnosis. So, if you see people on a stage show, running around looking like chickens, they are not particularly relaxed, are they? But they are in hypnosis.
Yes.
So, we are focusing somebody's attention on something and amplifying that focus.
So I'll add my thing to it, but please, comment on it so we get like a good definition. My definition of hypnosis is when we quieten the conscious mind that allows us to focus on what's most important and also access some of the powers of the unconscious mind. Because if we don't do that, the chatter, do I have a date tonight? What's happening here? Is the hypnotist going to do something good? Can I be hypnotized? All that stuff happens. So comments on kind of my definition of it and how it kind of aligns with yours.
Yeah, I mean, conscious, subconscious mind, if you like, they are a construct, if you like.
Yes.
And it can be a really great way of explaining it to people in simplistic terms. We all do things consciously. Consciously, I'm going to go and do this. But there's also a little bit of automation that's going on behind everything. All experience has structure. We haven't woken up today just by in the position we're in. We've had a number of life experiences behind us that's made us the person we are today with the habits that we've got today. So if we can quieten things down like I say, the little chatterbox in somebody's head,
Yes.
to allow that focus. I mean, I often say to my clients before I start the hypnosis, when we're doing this session today, you'll probably find at the very beginning, you will have a little chatterbox in your head.
Mm.
And that little chatterbox will be saying, am I hypnotised? Am I not hypnotised? Is this working? Well, I hope it's working because I'm paying all this money for this program. I hope it's working. Am I hypnotised now? Am I hypnotised now? But eventually that little chatterbox will stop, and we're then drifting into this wonderful state of hypnosis, which most people do describe it as the most relaxed they've felt in their entire life.
Absolutely. And before we go into like weight loss and our relationship with the body, a quick word from our sponsor. And if you look up in that direction there, you'll see a QR code. And this is an app that allows you to decide how you act or feel in any situation. This is Mindset Boosters. If you're ready to let go of anxiety, let go of uncertainty, let go of doubt, Mindset Boosters gives you the ability to decide how you act and feel in any situation. Ready to take charge of your mindset? Go to mindsetboosters.com. So in order to have life, we need oxygen, we need water, and we need food. And food is such a elemental definition of who we are as a people. We have national dishes. When we gather family, there's always a feast. I mean, it's so linked in to who we are and where we go to eat and what we do that we define ourselves through our occupation and also through our food. And since we're eating all the time, it's links up with the emotions that we're feeling and how we feel about ourselves. So it's a very complex thing. It's not a matter of, oh, I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to start doing that. Kind of your thoughts on, why weight loss, why weight is such an issue for us, and also why weight loss is so darn difficult to accomplish.
Mm. Yeah, and it's so true, isn't it? In that, it's simplistic in a way. If you want to lose weight, what do people say to us? What do the doctors say? Well, eat less and exercise more. If only it was so simple, we'd all just do that, wouldn't we? We'd all say, yes, I just need to eat less and exercise more.
And if it wasn't for mindset, that is the formula for weight loss. Simply that.
Yeah.
But the mind gets in the way.
Yeah, I mean, consciously, I do this about many things myself. Every Sunday night we can think this week is going to be different. I'm going to get a grip. Let's just get a grip this next week. I'm going to, eat healthily during the day. I'm going to go to the gym every night. I'm not going to have that glass of wine. I'm not going to get that snack out in front of the TV. And when we say those things, we mean them. We do mean it. And I say those things, we absolutely mean it. But then what happens? Monday morning comes, the everyday demands of everyday living are placed upon us, so we almost forget to a certain extent as well. I forgot I meant to do that. So we forget about it because we've just gone into automation again. That set of habits that are just running our life. If you think of naturally thin people, do they ever overeat? Yeah, of course they do. Do they ever eat chocolate? Yeah, of course they do.
And they're show-offs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But the difference is, they might go out, and have a blowout one night with some friends, but the next day they're back to a set of habits that they kind of live their life by that work. And so, it comes down to our habits and our associations. And people think that habits are really hard to break. They think, oh, that's going to be really difficult to overcome that because I've done it for so long. I've done that all of my life. But really, habits can change very quickly. I always link it back to, I'm not sure what happened where you are, Uma, but, when the pandemic hit in the UK,
yes,
we very quickly formed new habits. So here in the UK, when there was the very first lockdown, we all decided to bake. We're all going to bake cakes because we're staying. We're going to bake cakes and we're going to bake bread. and then we're going to eat them. You can imagine what that did for people's
Mm.
weight. So the second lockdown came, and people thought, oh, I'm going to change my habits. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to get fitter. So all these people were walking about on the 1 hour they could go out. It's all going to walk about. And but the third lockdown came, and then everybody was like, I can't really be bothered to do anything. I'm just going to sit in my house. I'm going to have a beer every day at 4 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock. I'm going to have it at 4 o'clock. Well, those habits stayed, and they were very hard for people to break again afterwards. So habits can form very quickly, but just as quickly as they can form, imagine if you can, change that habit as quickly back to something that's more beneficial.
Let's pause there just for a second. We'll come back to this. Something that you had said earlier is, on Sunday evening, we make a promise to ourselves that we mean that, this week's going to be different. And here's the interesting part for me is that when we lie to somebody else, there's a certain impact on us when we do that. But when we lie to ourselves, it has a huge impact. And when we say, I am going to change my habits this week, and we don't, I think it has hits us at a level of self-confidence that we may mask with bravado, that it proves to us, it validates old beliefs that nothing's going to change. I don't have the strength. So talk to me about when we break promises to ourselves, what's the impact of that on our relationship with weight?
I think that is just one element of it. Like with weight loss, let's imagine that somebody's got, quite a lot of weight to lose. Because with weight, it says so much about, it does impact our confidence so much, our identity as a person. Maybe he's always been identified as Big John. What if Big John loses weight? There's a bit of impact on his identity there as well. So,
which is huge.
That can kind of change things as well. But we say we mean it when we make that promise, and then we don't achieve it. We think, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm capable of that.
Right.
And then we start making a lot of self-affirmations. We're also really good at making excuses as human beings as well for why we are like we are.
You must be mom. It's your genetics.
Yeah. Or, I'm like this, or I'm going to find it really difficult because I'm going through the menopause, or I've reached a certain age, or I'm like this because I've got an underactive thyroid and a metabolic disorder. But we're all capable of change. And, it's worth remembering that, when you get up in the morning, you catch a reflection in the mirror, the person staring back at you is capable of achieving anything that you choose. The person staring back at you is a person of value and self-worth. And it's worth reminding ourselves of those things.
What's interesting is this, Sheila, let's say you were going to lose some weight and you were having difficulty with it. And I was just one of your mates. Sheila, you can do that. You got this. And the level of support, encouragement that we would give that person that we truly, deeply feel when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we are not as kind to ourselves as we would be to a mate. And we don't give that advice to ourselves. We're like, you are such a that self-talk that's so toxic. So talk to me about what's the first hypnotic experience you give people that gets them on the path of weight loss. So walk me through a journey of the first hello to you, to doing the first session, to walking us through. Think of a particular client and don't name names, and walk us through that process.
Yeah. Okay. So often what we tend to say is that, well, I just want to lose weight. We don't have a kind of a really strong why. We're only going to change if we're uncomfortable enough. And, lots of people will say to me, well, I want to lose weight because of health reasons. Well, I personally don't come across many people where the change will happen if it's just about health. We all know that. The doctors tell us that. It doesn't make any difference to us.
Yeah. I want to be there
You
for
know,
my grandkid's wedding is
yeah,
like sometimes a big why for someone. If I'm
yeah,
overweight, I'm
yeah,
gonna die before that. Yeah.
yeah. And the health reason will be secondary though. It's
Mm,
about how we feel about ourselves as a person, and it's about having a goal that's achievable to start with. I'm sure that you probably talked about goal setting with people before, but we've got to make this a little bit time bound. Okay, so I'll say, okay, have you got something coming up in the next few months where you can think, I'd like to be that size by then,
mm.
and that being realistic. So this isn't about, um, you know, dropping 3 stone in a week. This is about bringing about some habits that somebody can live with. That's going to, as a lucky side effect, help somebody lose weight as well. So I say if I can get you to lose, we work in stones and pounds in the UK. If I can get you to lose £2 a week without feeling like you're dieting, without feeling like you're being deprived, would you be happy with that? And like, yeah, that's absolutely great. I'd love that. So when somebody's got that goal in mind, okay, I want you to go and buy something new that you're going to wear when you've achieved that first goal. Now, that might be linked to a special occasion. So maybe it is a wedding anniversary, maybe it is a vacation. Go and
Mm.
buy that suit now. It has to be something new, because we tend to, if we want to lose weight, we've got lots of clothes in our wardrobe that we want to get back into, but we've already got those things in our life, so we don't strive to achieve it. So let's start visualizing and imagining becoming the person we want to be, as opposed to
Love
the
it.
person we if you've got like for a gentleman, for example, I had one guy, he liked going out on his motorbike. That was his thing. So
Right.
he bought a motorbike jacket in the size he wanted to be, wearing that jacket in the summer on his bike. It meant something to him. And then when he got that outfit, we need constant reminders, so we don't forget. We do it, because we said Monday morning comes, forget all the promises that were made to ourselves because life gets in the way. So we need
Right.
some reminders going on about what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, what it is we're doing, why we're doing it. And we've all got these devices.
Mm.
Take a photograph of that thing you want to be wearing. Have it as a screensaver on your phone. So we get these constant reminders going on about, because we're going to start eating to become the person we want to be.
Yeah, so let's pause you right there. That's like totally genius in terms of, number one, they're taking actions in the right direction. Number two, that item becomes almost like a talisman of that future self. Whereas if
Mm.
it's just a thought, it's a thought. But if they went out and they spent £200 to buy that jacket, they got skin in the game as well. So it kind of operates on many levels that are really, really positive. And
Mm.
so love that. So once you do that and you get them to buy the dress, then what's that first session like?
So then we're going to put in some realistic changes. So I always say, even though we're going to do hypnosis, and hypnosis can certainly produce magical results,
Mhm.
any change does require a little bit of conscious effort. So if you make a bit of conscious effort as well, it amplifies the results. So one of the things that I sometimes get people to do on the first session, we all have seen the stuff about about gastric band procedures.
Yes.
Um, or we've even seen, probably the latest thing is about the weight loss jab. So what if I was to get somebody in hypnosis to imagine surgery for an actual gastric band?
Mm.
Now, it's not about making somebody think they've had surgery. What I'm going to really do is get somebody to focus. Okay, what is my stomach telling me as opposed to the head and my eyes? Because if we all
Right.
ate with our stomachs, or not our heads and our eyes, we'd all be where we should be, realistically. We'd only be putting into our body what it actually needs, as opposed to eating for other reasons.
Really,
You,
what's kind of interesting is there's a book called Mindless Eating,
mm,
and they one of their thoughts was that the the stomach does not have a full gauge, that it takes a while to figure that out. And the visual cues are really important. And they do this exercise where they have this really nice centerpiece on this table with a square table where 4 people can sit all around it. And everybody has a bowl of soup, but 2 of the soups have tubes coming in at the bottom, and this nice little decorative centerpiece has soup in it. So their bowls never actually empty. They stay full all the time. And the other 2 people, as they eat their soup, it goes down. And the people that the soup doesn't go down, they actually eat 20% more till their stomach says, I'm full. So so having that is like crucial.
And having those visual reminders really does help. So like I had one lady, she used to carry around a little Satsuma orange in a bag, and she put a rubber band around it, so that was imaginary gastric band.
Oh, wow.
And she put it on the table in front of her when she was eating, because she was going to eat to that. And it was just that constant, as I mentioned earlier about reminders, it's having that constant reminder, whatever makes us conscious. You know, people say, you know, do I hypnotize people into a trance to get them to lose weight? And the reality is, I'm going to hypnotize them out of the trance. If you think about it with our eating habits, a lot of the damage that we do is what we do in a trance, what we do mindlessly. So like a lot of people I work with, they're already eating healthily. They are eating healthily. You know, we tend to, you know, put stereotypical things that if people are overweight, then they're eating rubbish and they're, you know, but a lot of the time it's not a case of that. Sometimes people are eating healthily, but on some level we're still putting too much. Or people can say, you know, I'm really good during the day, but when I get in and I've had my dinner and I sit down and I put the television on, then I go and get the snacks. That's when I'm, oh, what's in the cupboard? What can I have to eat? And they do all the damage at that point. So it's at that point we slip into the trance. So as a hypnotist, really I'm looking at what are the patterns, eating patterns or trances that I need to interrupt and replace with something that's more beneficial.
Sounds brilliant, because a lot of what we do is unconscious. And, you know, everybody's had the experience of driving home and not realizing that you did so. But you were perfectly safe and you did all the right things, but you were like mentally checked out. And the same thing with food, because it also is a narcotic, especially if you're eating the right food. It's just, you feel so good. It makes you lose yourself more.
Yeah. And also, what's the frame sometimes that we're putting around certain foods? So, you know, some people might say, are there any particular foods that get in the way? So for some people, they might say, you know, well, if I could just stop eating bread, if I could just stop eating chocolate, then, you know, if I could stop going for the cookies, then, you know, I'd be a lot better. So then I might put a bit of a Band-Aid on that particular food and frame it in a different way to what's really going on here.
So give me an example, a real example of somebody, it was this food and this is how I reframed it.
Okay. So just out of interest then, is there any food, Uma, that you'd like to eat less of?
Let's say potato chips.
Potato chips. Okay.
Especially something salt and vinegar that's really like hits the senses.
Yeah.
Because if I don't put it in a bowl and do portion control, I'll eat half the bag easy.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So then, is there, and how would it be beneficial to you if you were eating less of those?
It would make me feel good about myself. It would be better for my diet. It would, impact in a lot of ways, in a lot of subtle ways that are important to me.
Okay, excellent. And is there any food, just out of interest, that you really couldn't eat? Like, I mean, I always remember when I was a little girl, my mum, one of the things that she used to cook for us was something called belly pork. And I can still see it sitting under the grill, but the worst of it was you could still see the hairs of the animal on
that would do it. Yeah.
So, like, couldn't eat that. Could never eat that again to save my life. Is there anything that you
So for
couldn't
me,
eat?
anything pork would be something I would not consume.
All right,
And it would be
okay.
like,
Why would
ugh, definitely don't want to do that.
what is it about pork that you couldn't consume?
Oh, it's just a religious background. Like I was never religious, but some, I womanize, I do drugs, I do this. But that one thing that just stuck always was not eating pork.
Right, okay. All right, okay. So are you ready to play along with me, Uma?
I am. I love this.
Are we going to do something about these potato chips? All for your own
Well, crisps. For the British audience, we're talking about crisps.
Yes. So what I'd like you to do then is just kind of really, if you were to imagine in your mind, Uma, the most relaxing place where every time you think about it, it always evokes feelings of relaxation, good feelings.
Got it.
What kind of place is that for you?
It's that couch right over there on the other side of the room.
All right, okay. So if you go ahead and just close your eyes down for me, and just imagine that you're sitting on that couch for a moment. Feel it underneath you. You know exactly how it feels being there. And then while you're just imagining being on that couch, I want you to imagine something else for me, Uma. I'd like you to imagine that by your side right now is this big empty bucket, a big empty vat, if you like. And I'd like you to imagine if any and all of your bits and bobs of excess body fat were dripped and drained away into that bucket, what that fat would look like. You could see it. So I'm going to ask you some really simple, non-intrusive questions. You'll find you'll be able to answer them, still remain pretty relaxed. So that fat in that bucket, what colour is it?
It's yellowish.
Yellowish, okay. And what's the consistency? Is it smooth? Is it lumpy? What would it be, the consistency?
Liquid with lumpy bits in it that don't look appetizing.
Oh dear. So liquidated in lumpy bits in that yellow fat. And if you could smell it, Uma, if you could smell the fat in that bucket, what would it smell like if you could smell it?
A bit rancid.
A bit rancid, okay. So that yellow, rancid, liquidy, lumpy, smelling fat in that bucket. I want you to imagine something else for me. I want you to imagine you've got that bag of potato chips. And before you put that potato chip into your mouth, I want you to imagine dipping it into that bucket.
I knew you were going to do that. You're an evil woman. Yes. Okay. I'm going to mention doing that.
Get a big blob of that fat on, and notice the yellow of that fat, the liquidy, the lumpy, the rancid, smelling.
And it becomes soggy, so there's no crispiness left. It's disgusting. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. So I want you to let that imagery just fade away from your mind. I want you to imagine one other thing for me. I want you to imagine that in front of you, you have two plates. On one plate are some potato chips. I might be a bit soggy now from the fat, who knows? But anyway, there's some potato chips there. And on the other plate, there's some pork. I want you to imagine taking a knife and fork, cutting that pork up, and then mixing it bit by bit in with all crisps. Getting a bit more of the pork and mixing more and more in. So it's all mixed together. And when you've done that, when it's all mixed together, I just want you to nod your head silently. Okay. So from this moment forward, you can easily choose the foods that are more beneficial to you. You can choose to say, walk away from those potato chips.
So what's kind of interesting, as soon as you had me mixing the bacon bits with the potato chips, there was an instant visceral feeling in my gut that was not pleasant. Like immediately came there. So it was a reaction to it. So yeah, very powerful.
So how did you start? Interest? How do you feel about potato chips now.
I can see a difference. It's not like there's a bag later on this evening. Oh, now that feeling's back, that negative feeling. I'd be
Yeah.
disinclined to have it.
Mm.
And thanks a lot. Our sponsor is Lay's Potato Chips, and they're going to actually stop sponsoring us. Thanks a lot, Sheila.
Oh,
No, it
dear.
just shows you well, two things there. Number one, it shows you the power we all have of changing how we feel about things. And just as importantly, somebody else could have taken me through this exercise, Sheila, and it would have been like, that's okay. So the mastery of the practitioner, like your mastery, is equally as important. And it kind of leads to that subject of trust. So if I don't trust you, Sheila, and you do the same thing that you did, it wouldn't be as effective. And because we're going through this process and I trust you, I can leverage some of your trust in me and also go on that journey as well. So it's just not only a matter of the incantations you used, is who's doing it, the rapport you've developed, and my relationship to you determines how well this whole thing works.
Yeah.
And so you do it masterfully. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, it's very important that, if people look to go and work with a hypnotist on an issue that they've got, that they do feel some rapport and they feel at ease with that person. That they feel at ease with that person. Because
Right.
otherwise, it's not going to be as effective. You're not going to, for want of a better expression, drop your guards so that person can actually help you access your own resources. So, what hypnotist does is looks at, okay, what resources has this person got to fix themselves? What can
What resources do they have that we can utilize? Absolutely. Because people feel powerless and helpless when they're not.
Yeah, completely.
So let me tell you about a client. Go ahead, Sheila. You finish first.
So, a lot of the time, people don't realise that they have got the resources already within them somewhere to utilise and to put into an area of their life, because they've already done it in some area of their life somewhere else. It's just that at the time we've got the issue or the problem, we can't work out how to access that resource.
It comes back to the trust again in the practitioner, that the trust in the practitioner allows them to see that resource that in the past they would have looked at it and go, well, that doesn't matter. And because they trust in you, they go, oh yeah, that would be a very useful thing. And you didn't talk about a resource, you just used it. And then you proved to me, that you had this thing and it's really powerful. So let me add to that. I had this client come in once and she had tried everything to lose weight. And she'd gotten to a certain level, couldn't go beyond it. And I said, okay, tell me about a time where you beat yourself about the weight that you have. It happens all the time. But yeah, it was like this past Sunday, I was in the bedroom by myself. I was getting dressed, saw myself in the mirror, and I was like, rah, 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 rah. And I said, okay, go back to that moment and see what you saw, your body in the mirror, and hear what have you heard, silence in the room or whatever was happening, music in the background. And then what were you feeling and where were you feeling it? And for her, it was a feeling like right near the heart that felt really uncomfortable. And using a tool from NLP, you can take that feeling and go back to the first time you felt it. And for her, her husband, her love of her life, had to be rushed to Boston, Massachusetts. And the surgeon was going to do whatever surgery he was going to do. And he came into their room and said, look, the surgery is pretty intense. And you're going to lose about 60 pounds of weight through this surgery. And that's just normal. And then we'll have to build you back up after the surgery. And she was there listening to this and the love of her life. And she said internally, not on my watch. And she made sure he ate properly. And he lost not 60 pounds, and went down to about 35. But she started eating to help him. And she linked eating to saving his life. And so when we decoded why she eats now. It went back to that moment of not on my watch, and we disconnected that. And then the other techniques helped lose the weight very quickly. So talk to me
Yeah.
about those internal beliefs about self and self-preservation, because sometimes people eat as a way of protecting themselves from the outside world,
Yeah.
and it's there for a reason. And it could have been a childhood experience that was pretty traumatic, or a childhood experience that was perfectly fine, and
Yeah.
the meaning they made out of it ended up this. So talk to me about those internal defining beliefs, and also using hypnosis to change behaviors. How do you balance the two?
I mean, sometimes, what we've got to remember is that everybody's different and unique with their
Mm,
different set of experiences in their life. So, with some of us, we've literally just formed a set of habits.
mm,
Yes, we'll need to try and set a new set of habits. And with other people, there may be something new layers. We've maybe put weight on for layers of protection. Sometimes with ladies, when they've been younger and they've attracted too much, they feel like they've attracted too much male attention, for example.
yes,
They maybe, well, I'm going to make sure I'm not as attractive then. And that is kind of an inner belief system where your body's like,
yeah,
well, you're not going to lose
absolutely.
any weight. You know what happens then? Because we're still got the same, we're running a program, if you like, for when we were 17 years old, but we're now like 60. We're still running the 17-year-old program.
Mm,
Um, or it could be, like you say, that it goes further back into time. I remember working with a lady. She was actually a medical doctor, a GP, as we would call them in the UK, a general practitioner. And she had tried to lose weight for years and years and years and years and years, and couldn't manage to do it. Um, Even though she was somebody who gave out advice to other people, she couldn't kind of seem to do it for herself. She also, for somebody who was in such good standing, if you like, in the community, always had an uneasy feeling that she wasn't good enough.
yep.
And even though, consciously you could think, oh, this doesn't make any sense at all. You go to all these groups, all these people listen to you, on what possible level do you think you're not good enough? But she had an uneasy feeling that she wasn't good enough, which she then used food to bury that feeling. Let me soothe my soul in some way. And I'll use food to do it. Some people might use drugs, some people use alcohol, but, we soothe our soul. Taking her back to the very first time she felt like that, she went to being 5 years old.
Wow.
It was her first day at school, and they had a gym class on the first day at school. And this teacher had asked them, or they had to do two things. They had to climb up a rope. I couldn't do that, to be honest with you. They had to climb up a rope and blow up a balloon. And she couldn't do either of these things. And the teacher had really berated her and said, well, everybody else can do it. What's your problem? You're useless. Everybody else can do it. And that feeling of I'm not good enough started as a little seed then. And what happens with little seeds sometimes is they start growing, don't they?
Every time. Yeah.
Yes. So, it can start to go into different areas. So, yeah, there was food, might be in our career, what
and
way.
and just to, and just to give a voice to that, because I think it's an important point, is I'm not good enough. It's uh, mom's handing out games, and she hands out the game second to you, and then all of a sudden it validates that belief. If you didn't
Mm,
have that belief, it just mean, hey, I got my game, that's so exciting. Then it's like, oh, I'm not good enough. If she loved me more, she'd give it to me first, which is furthest thing from the. Then we start changing reality to fit our I'm not good enoughness. So yeah,
mm.
absolutely.
And also, sometimes I think it's worth, um, remembering as well that we can drive our "I'm not good enough" feelings actually in a positive way. They don't always have to be negative, self-destruct ways. It's like, how
Some
can we
people
make
build.
friends? How can we make friends with the uneasy feelings, and rather than see them as, a horrible thing, something that can actually drive us forward. So, on a very personal level, I've always had a feeling, if you like, that I am not good enough. I can consciously, completely analyse where that has come from. I was adopted when I was born, so
Mhm.
subconsciously, like in my mind, I wasn't good enough when I was born.
Yes.
So I've always had this uneasy feeling. But actually, that feeling has served me very well, because it's actually made me go out and do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Because on some level, you're kind of on a mission to prove that you are. Now, some people might say, "Oh, Sheila, you want to get yourself sorted out with that? You'd be much better if you didn't have that." I'm not going to let that go for anybody, because it
Right.
serves me so
It's a
well
useful
in that
tool.
direction. Yeah, yeah. So sometimes, even though we might have them, it's, what are the tools that we've got and that we're using that are useful, and what are the tools that we've got that we need to reframe in some way.
And there's a few masters of the universe, quite a few, that have felt that they're useless, and it's
Mm,
got them to prove otherwise. It's like, I'll show you, and they go out and they build these massive
mm.
companies. So just something
Yeah,
for
yeah,
teachers before we part company. I think part of teachers training has to be is that in their teacher class, they need to say something negative, and then they get electrocuted, because the number of times I've heard teachers saying, the "you're worthless" or "you'll never amount to much," and how it's impacted someone for the rest of their lives by them being careless in their thoughts is just staggering. Because most teachers are
mm,
there to help kids, and just some of them are just say things that they don't think are powerful, but can negatively impact someone for the rest of their lives.
yeah. And if you think about it, if we want to change a really simple way to change some of our thoughts is, if you think of television advertising, it
Mhm.
trains our brain in 30-second blinks. So, like, I was recounting the other day some TV advertising, and I was saying kind of the first bit of the advert or the first bit of the jingle. You all have these annoying jingles
Oh
in your
yeah.
head from some advert, and you can recount all of it, can't you? And what it's done is it's trained your brain on repetition in 30-second blinks. If that is so powerful, why aren't we doing it ourselves? Why aren't we using that as a beneficial tool for ourselves? So, again, we've all got these things. Why don't we record, some positive statements for ourselves? I'm going to always eat healthily. I'm going to look after my body. I'm going to really enjoy exercising. Whatever your thing may be, and play it to yourself multiple times a day.
Yep. I
It'll,
think it's
it'll just become like TV advertising.
absolutely. I think going back to kind of go full circle is when you look at that dress that you promised yourself you're going to fit into, and you see yourself in that dress. It's also the same thing. You just kind of go, okay, I can see there. People are going to comment and say, "Oh, Sheila, you look amazing. Have you lost weight?" No, no, I haven't. But thank you anyway, or whatever. So yeah, we've got this amazing gift.
Mm.
And Sheila, you have a lot of clients and also a lot of coaches that use your methodology. Uh, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I always love to hear from people. Um, so my web address is www.sheilagranger.com. And I'm also, on Facebook, WhatsApp. If you go on my Facebook page, Sheila Granger, people can WhatsApp me. I'm always happy to give any advice that I possibly can. Ultimately, it's all about, making a difference, isn't it?
Brilliant. Before we part company, is there a question you have for me? Put me on the spot before we go.
How can I put you on the spot? Let me think about it. Put you on the spot.
Umar, do you want to eat potato chips? You can ask that one.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I have actually. I haven't prepared
Good.
for that. This shows you what we're not prepared for. Oh, wave my hanky.
Cool. Sheila, it was a delight chatting with you, and I learned a lot, and I can't wait for our next conversation.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Hang tight there. We'll talk after the outro. If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.